I've got another review for you guys, but before I get started, I wanted to give a shout out to a couple of people that welcomed me back to the YouTube community with my last video, the Q2. I really appreciate a couple of those people that welcomed me back. It's good to be back making videos. So in today's video, I'm going to be reviewing Lionel's new Union Pacific 412-2 locomotive. Just to give you a little more information on this engine. This engine is unique in a couple of ways. It's got the long wheelbase, and it also is a 3-cylinder locomotive as opposed to the typical 2-cylinder. So Union Pacific, this wasn't their first 3-cylinder locomotive. Back in the mid-1920s, Alco built a 410-2 3-cylinder locomotive. They were experimenting with trying to get more power and efficiency out of 3 cylinders as opposed to just 2. And so in the mid-1920s, Alco built a couple of these 410-2s, and they were a maintenance headache for the maintenance crews because the third cylinder was hard to get access to. The third cylinder was connected to is underneath in the middle, and it's connected to the second drive wheel. And with the 410-2, the engine couldn't go very fast. So the Union Pacific went back to Alco looking for a little more power and more speed. You know, this is the typical theme of the UP. They were always looking for more power. So Alco came out with the 412-2, and it was faster than the 410-2, and obviously the headaches of the maintenance crews with that third cylinder was not such a big deal because UP ended up ordering 88 of these locomotives in the mid-1920s, like 1926. They received their first batch of 412-2s, and they received them up through 1930. So this engine is it had its own name. It was just called the Union Pacific class because no other railroad ordered this locomotive. The benefit that the UP had in their network was that a lot of their lines were straight and didn't have a lot of curves, so they could take advantage of these long wheelbases where the other railroads could not use an engine like this on their networks. So no other railroad ordered this locomotive. The UP kept this locomotive in their roster up through 1956 when they got replaced by diesels. I kind of sound like a broken record, and I know I've mentioned this a number of times, but I'm always looking for unique locomotives, and this engine is definitely unique. One of the reasons why I'm a UP fan is that UP had a very unique roster of locomotives over the years. They have a long history of unique engines, and this is definitely one of them. One of the cool features on this locomotive is the really long wheelbase. This locomotive was released in Lionel's 2021 Volume 2 catalog. This locomotive has some really nice detail. You've got the handrail running the whole length of the engine that's separately applied. You've got the blackened side rods. That's a feature that this locomotive came with. The 9023 came with the blackened side rods. With the frontal locomotive, there's a whole lot of detail on this engine. I know it's kind of hard to see the individual details, but you've got the scale coupler over here in the front. You've got the coupler cut bar here, and then you've got all this piping here on the side in the front of the boiler. And you've got the number plate here in the front, just under the headlight. This bell actually swings a little bit, which is a nice feature. You've got the number boards that light up on either side, and the marker lights in the front. One of the things that I discovered about this engine is that the boiler cover does open in the front. So you can see inside. I know it's kind of dark in there, you can't really see anything, but it snaps shut and there's a magnet inside that holds it in place. So going back to that third piston, Lionel, actually, you can actually see the piston moving back and forth. Here's a close-up look at it, moving back and forth while the engine is running. So I recently watched a video from Joker's Trains. He makes a number of YouTube videos on trains like I do, and he did a review on this locomotive. And there were two things that he had mentioned that kind of stood out. One thing he mentioned that I was not aware of until I actually watched his video was that the instruments in the cab of the locomotive actually light up. And then number two, he had mentioned that not a lot of people had made videos on this locomotive, and it reminded me of a video I had made a number of years ago on my old channel. I have the MTH version of this engine, and when I got it, I did a review on it a number of years ago. If you guys want to see that, you can click on the upper right hand corner of the screen to watch that. It's from a couple years ago, yeah, so just wanted to point that out to you guys. Some of the things that I like about this engine, I really like the whistle. I didn't go through the 5 whistles. I just used the first whistle that was standard from the default whistle, which I liked. It's got a unique sound to it. Another thing I like is the marker lights and the tender. They sit up kind of high, right behind the coal load. And then you have another marker light in the rear of the tender. And then above that, you have the reverse light that lights up when you put the locomotive in reverse. And then, of course, you have there's 3 hatches behind the 2 marker lights that you can actually open. They're a little tricky to open, though. So the weight of this engine, the engine itself, the locomotive, is just under 9 pounds, and the tender is just under 4 pounds. So 13 pounds in total weight, give or take 13 and a half pounds. And the length is 26 and a half inches coupler to coupler. So I wanted to briefly cover the top portion of the locomotive. There's some important features on it that if you either don't read the manual or you might not be familiar with some of the important features on this engine. So one of the important features are the switches. So underneath the sand dome, it's held on by a magnet. You just pop it off, real easy to take off. And you have the 4 switches. One is the whistle on and off, the main smoke on and off, the Bluetooth on and off, and the run program switch. Then behind that, so this engine has whistle steam. So this engine has a separate hole for putting in the smoke fluid for the whistle steam. So the steam dome right here has a hatch that comes off. It's held on by a magnet, and you can see the hole right here where you put the fluid in. So that's a really important feature to know when you run this engine for the first time. You want to make sure that you put smoke in here for the whistle steam if you're going to be using that feature. And then a couple more details. You've got the pop-up valves here. You've got the dynamo, and this is the whistle where the smoke comes out for the whistle steam. These hatches back here do not open. Here's a closer look at the underside of the locomotive. There's some unique features with this engine. First of all, like I said earlier, this is where the piston in the middle is connected. I don't know if you can see that right there. This rotates around and it's connected to the second drive wheel. Of the 6 sets of drive wheels, only 2 of them have flanges on them. So the first driver over here has flanges, and the second to last driver over here has flanges. All the other wheels do not have flanges on them, and the traction tires are on this wheel here that have the second to last driver that have the flanges. The traction tires are on this wheel here. And then you have the 3 pickup rollers, which is kind of unique. Usually these engines have 2, but this actually has 3. So I briefly just wanted to go over this caboose that I'll be running in the running session with the 412-2. I also ordered this this came from Lionel's Volume 2 catalog from 2021, and I ordered this specifically to run with my 412-2. The 412-2s, they were built in the 1920s, and they ran in the, obviously the 1930s, so I figured this would be appropriate for that time period to get a wooden caboose. So this is a really nice caboose that has some really nice detail. The handrails are nice, the ladders, you've even got the handrails above the cupola. And the interior is lit up, and the marker lights on the ends also light up. Inside there is a little figure sitting in the cupola facing forward, which is a nice feature. So you'll be seeing this caboose on running around the layout with today's running session. Probably one of the favorite features I like on this caboose is the trucks. They have a unique design, which kind of gives it a unique look. I like the design of the trucks. So now I'm going to go ahead and hook this up to some cars, and we will have ourselves a little running session with this. So enjoy.
Dispatcher here. Start her up. Stand by for track orders. Over.
Yes, sir. We'll fire her up. Out.
These long waits are brutal. At least the back head keeps the coffee on.
Dispatcher, am I cleared to the outbound? Over.
Hold for signal indication. Dispatcher out.
Gonna be here a while. Timetable has us holding here for number 9. She's running about 20 minutes late.
Dispatcher, error is made. Brake test complete. Are we clear to pull?